Hi everyone, this is Yogan here. Today I'm going to be talking about EQAFE. Okay, so this is for especially those who don't know what EQAFE is. This is like my review of it, my perspective. Even those who even know what it is, this is my point of view, my experience with it. So like I wrote in my description for the video, I've been utilizing EQAFE for many years as a great information source on the mind, on how it works, and including specifically certain emotions like anger, like jealousy, suppression, and hate, and it describes it in such a detail that it really gives a complete picture, an understanding of how the emotion is working within you. It's really quite fascinating, the detail of it, and it's, I mean, to compare it, for example, I have throughout my life have been really involved within the quest for understanding who we are, to become better as human beings, and I've been exposed to and been following lots of different, let's say, spiritualities, New Age, like Eckhart Tolle or Deepak Chopra or Dwayne Ryder, Dreyer, and various others, including like Indian philosophy with gurus as well. So I've been exposed to, I mean, of course, meditation involved as well. So with all this body of knowledge, from Buddhism, from India, to China, Eastern philosophy, and all of the, let's say, with the New Age movement, how one thing that that I now see is lacking is really, like for someone to actually, for example, take one emotion, let's say anger, and explain it in such detail in how it works within you, to really give like a full description, explanation, like I want to say almost scientific. And in general, you can see how in how we live our lives, and how we use emotions, talk about emotions. We don't really ever expect there to be an explanation. It's almost like we all just assume that, our emotions are emotions. We feel anger, and we feel anger, and that's it. And we define it very simply, like anger is bad, for example. But that's usually it's only those very surface level definitions that we hold on to and that we define. And what is interesting is that even with anger, when we define it as, let's say, bad, we usually define it within another emotion. For example, because we define anger as bad, we define it with another emotion, such as hate, self-hate, or self-pity, or self-inferiorizing, where you inferiorize yourself, or feel regret, or feel guilt, or feeling anger. And that becomes then the definition for when we feel anger, we feel bad, So what I'm saying here is that we've only touched, as a humanity, as a people, as all the collective bodies of knowledge that exist in the world regarding our emotions and what we feel, that it's only very on the surface, and we've only been living that way, where we don't really even know or seen anything else. And this here, I'm speaking from someone who, now looking at it with EQAFE for many years now, that it does give a deep detail, a description, exactly like you would expect from an encyclopedia. That if there was an encyclopedia on an emotion such as anger, it would explain it with pages and pages of detail, like maybe in a whole book on anger. But, you know, and for me too, explaining my background as well, that I also have a bachelor's degree from psychology, from Reed College. And even within psychology, it also only touches on the very surface layers, meaning that within science and psychology, you can see that it's often limited to just what you can observe with your physical senses of another person, especially within Western psychology, such as here in the United States, where its approach is very analytical, which means that you have to observe someone else's emotions, or observe someone else's feelings, or observe their thoughts. And of course, you cannot really directly observe another person's emotions, or what they're thinking, what they're feeling, right? And that's obvious. But you can observe only their actions or their behaviors. And so all that research that's there in psychology within science now is limited to that, which is a limitation. And it is something that they are aware of and they are honest about. And, you know, I mean, that's been my experience within studying psychology. One more note on psychology is that there are other forms of psychology that are, let's say, like Argentina, I know, for example, or in many other parts of the world, but not here in the United States. Not here, I'm saying, not here in the United States, where it's more where you're encouraged to analyze your own thoughts, analyze your own emotions, analyze what you're feeling and thinking. That's what a therapist does, is encourage you to analyze yourself. So within that too, you know, of course, a therapist can only share from his own experience, and there are limitations there as well. Though what is cool is that there's a point of you know, I mean, there are different approaches. Not, I want to get to a long discussion here about that, but I mean, it's cool that to have that point of writing, for example. They do use writing and other tools, reanalyze yourself, and that is in other kinds of psychology where that's a kind of main approach is of a self-investigative approach. So now, you know, looking back, I mean, looking at all of us as humanity, society, and including what I've looked at within spirituality and these different groups, that, you know, usually when we talk about the mind is usually something that we see as something that is thinking all the time, that we need to slow down, we need to stop the thinking, we need to stop the thought. But, you know, that's why we use meditation for, or at least that's what many groups do for. Now, what is interesting is that it sort of stops right there at that moment, because, I mean, I'm trying to explain this when I realize it's kind of difficult to explain, because, I mean, before, when I was exposed to only just that, I really didn't think or could be even conceive of another way. But what is interesting here with EQAFE, what it has done for over these years, is that it has, over a long period of time, presented and gathered so much information that is in so much detail regarding the connection between what we think, what we feel, and it goes into the absolute detail of a specific emotion like a suppression or sadness. And it goes to that emotion and explains to you, and it lays it out for you in detail about how it works, how it connects to the rest of you, and how it's like you're a really like interconnected web of information. And it lays it out to you so that you have a real understanding of what is going on within you. And for me, as someone who is skeptical, someone who is questioning everything I see, that for me I had to check for myself, okay, and see whether the interview is actually, the information presented in their interviews actually are actually what's going on within me. I actually have to compare it and see, okay, well, is this really describing what's going on within me? And what I've seen for time and time again, consistently, is that it does describe what's going on within me. And as I'm hearing the words and hearing the explanation and description of what is going on within particular emotion, that as I hear it, it's like I'm seeing my own life, my own memories, and what is going on with me right now. For example, during my day, I notice I'm feeling something. What I do is I try to find out what it is I'm feeling by naming it, naming the emotion. And if let's say I see that I'm feeling anger, then I look at anger, and I see it if that's what it is. And then as I'm sure, then I take into then I go. That one thing I've been doing, which is what EQAFE is there for, is to search on anger. And I look on anger, I use their website, and I search what they have on anger. And then I see what they have, and then I listen to a few interviews on that. And then it's as if as I'm hearing it, I see and understand what's going on within me, within my daily life, what happened during that day. And they give such, of course, it's a general informational source explaining how anger works, but because of how we work as human beings, that we all are really quite the same or similar in our structure of how we work, in our emotions, and what we feel and what we think, and that we are actually very much the same in that regard. That if how their interview is describing anger is how it's working for me and for other people and everyone. But what is interesting is that for me, I can only test myself to know for sure. What I've seen is that it does indeed describe me, which is surprising and amazing. And when I hear that, understand that, then I have an understanding which helps me to see what was going on with my life, why I was feeling angry, what's causing it, what am I thinking about that's leading to it, or like how does it work? I mean, it's so amazing what they're able to share. And when I compare this to everything I've learned within psychology and within different New Age teachers and what they share within what they know, that is just not the same. It's not the same detail, and they go much deeper into how the reality of the mind. It is if like they have, it's like if a scientist were, as if they're able to directly observe the mind, the emotions, and the feelings, which is what they're offering, which is what they have access to, is a direct observation of these things within all of us. And for me, approaching it from a scientific approach, that I have to first see whether the information they're sharing is actually accurate for me. And for me, what I've seen for a long period of time is that it is indeed describing me exactly. And when I hear their words, when they're describing, let's say, an emotion that I just know, like I honestly know, like it's something I cannot deny to myself, that I can see, yes, directly, that what they're describing is what exactly I did, or what exactly I felt, or what was going on within me. And it's amazing that the different the connections, the relationships between our thoughts, between our emotions, how they work together, how they're interconnected. It's like a whole entire structure, and it's just amazing to understand that in detail. And that's like really like the gift, where it is literally like humanity has been given an encyclopedia on their emotions, on how the mind works and how we think. And within that, the whole point of this course, with all this information, is to actually support us, to understand what's going on within us, so that it empowers us to actually then take responsibility for our lives, to actually really live and actually do the things we do and do what we want to do and do the things we need to do and live and be a human being and to be successful, to actually have that ability to know what's going on within me and not have that limit me, to not have the lack of awareness, the lack of understanding, the lack of knowledge limit me. That having that access to that explanation, description of the mind empowers me, because I'm no longer within ignorance, I'm no longer within within not knowing what to do, or not knowing what's going on within me. And I'm not saying this absolutely where I do know me absolutely. I don't, because that would require to actually know me within detail, within every single aspect and part of me, which means each emotion, each thought, each part of me as my mind, to actually know that in detail. And I only have percentage of that because of what I've been using EQAFE for, and for what I've been doing with my own self-writing and investigation within myself. But then having clarity within a part of me, that already empowers me that much more in my life, in my daily living, to actually create the life that I want, to create the life that I need. And so here's an amazing source of information that is massive. It's a large source of information that you can search through. There's a search bar you can literally search through a particular aspect, something that you're going through. And you can find that information there most likely. And if you don't, if it's something that's something they haven't covered yet, you can actually request for them to cover that. Their goal right now, and it's something they've been doing weekly for the last years, for years of their lives, they've been doing this weekly of putting information out several times a week. That over the years they have such a large information base now that really I can see being a great support for everyone. That if they're confused about something, then this will give clarity, because I do see a limitation, a drawback within what we have now, within psychology, within what New Age teachers, spiritual teachers have access to, which they do give a support, both psychology and the New Age teachers and spiritualities, in Buddhism in India, Eastern philosophy, that they do give support. But I realize that it is lacking because it doesn't go into detail. So if you're someone who is like me, who wants to know in detail, in fact, how our emotions are working, how our thoughts are working, how they work with each other, what's going on within us, the relationships within us, our relationship between the different parts of our minds, that our mind is divided into many different parts, and they all work together and they form our mind. It is such a complex relationship, and when I look at it myself, that it is indeed complex, and the only way I can see us actually be able to work with our mind and not get stuck within it is to actually understand that complexity, to actually understand that in detail. Because right now we're assuming the mind is very simple and just like us, it's just under our control. But the mind is really, really complex, and it relates within our personalities, who we are, in such detail that it's amazing. And I can't see any other way for us but to actually understand the complexity, understand it in detail, and be able to work with that. And that I see is the gift and the work that they're doing with EQAFE, and something that I can see is their passion, and what they need to do to help humanity, to help us understand what's going on within us. And they're really committed to this. And for that, I'm really grateful for them, which is something that, you know, they're offering as like this amazing source, and this is their livelihood. This is what they're all about. This is what they're committed to as people on all levels of themselves, to bring this information out there. And so, yeah, it's really invaluable what they're giving. So for me, I wanted to share this as my account, my review, and what I have known and what I've seen. So thank you for listening. I encourage you to do your own research and investigation, to actually see if the interviews are supportive for you, and to see if they do describe it maybe in the detail I'm describing, or maybe find something different. But I definitely wish you the best of luck, and take care.